welcome back to my channel. So I talk about a lot of things, psychology, spirituality. I do conscious reviews on movies and media in general. Today I will be talking about I'll be using the TV show Harlem as an example to illustrate something prominent topic I feel in relationships regarding self-worth and boundaries, and how we ultimately decide what is worth our time. I feel like it's applicable to more things than just relationships, because relationships are not always romantic, but I think this topic is specifically emphasized and so easily seen when we talk about romantic relationships. But in the end of the day, it shows how our childhood and upbringing basically influence all our choices in life, and how we accept less than what we deserve. And then I'll also talk about something that we can do to change that in our present lives, and what can help us to show up better, to say no better, or to say yes to the things that we actually want.
Shake your body, every day is a party. Every day is a party. Every day is a party. Shake your body.
Is loud music a Long Island thing?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
What,
Can I get a jacket?
what about your firm? Is there a lot of upward mobility there?
Sure.
It's funny because my father is actually one of... Oh my God! Did you see what you just did? This is wall crepe! Wall crepe! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to the ladies' room. I'll be right back. Actually, would you mind watching my purse for me?
For sure.
I will be right back. I'm sitting there!
Quin!
Angie,
I thought your name was Quin.
what's going on?
I'll explain later. How are you here?
Postmates, I brought you cookies.
It's Fade. I could have a meet cute too. I feel like Kate Hudson. Ooh, Quinn, it's my poet from Uber.
Okay, great. Can you get my account unlocked?
Maybe unlocks me first.
Shawty want a headshot. I'ma make the bed rock. Never let the money go. I put it in a headlock.
Oh, that was amazing.
And unexpected. Just couldn't wait.
So, can we go to your place now and fuck like adults?
Oh, we're here.
I know. I mean, can we go up to your place and, finish what we started?
No, I mean, this is my place.
You live in your car? Like, you live in this car we've been riding around in all day? Like, this is your home?
Well, poetry doesn't really pay. And, I mean, you get it. We're artists. We don't chase coin, we chase inspiration.
Sure, in theory, but no, fuck that. An artist also needs to eat. We are not the same. I don't even have a car to live out of. Shit! I have to call that director. I am doing Get Out. I fucked up.
So after watching these two clips, I feel like there are very specific points in both of them, where the woman, she learns something about a man in that moment. So in case of Quin, it's the moment, well, they're kind of happening simultaneously, like two moments after one. It's first when a guy spills a drink. Well, first of all, guy even cuts in front, and the other guy, like, he has no reaction to that. And then he spills a drink over her, and again, he has no kind of showing zero concern or reaction over the situation. And then straight after that, he's looking at that other woman and making like eye contact with her. So instead, what Quin does, her response to it is she redirects her focus from him to a woman. And I feel like what it shows as well, it's an attachment response. So she is already attached to him so quickly and so easily as, you know, as mine, or like, you know, that kind of attachment already formed. And because the severance of attachment symbolizes pain or perceived to be painful, she redirects her focus at the external problem at hand. Whereas for Angie, you can feel like they already have that connection with the guy. It wasn't like the first time she sees him, but the first time they actually romantically get together. And even though it doesn't seem from her actions initially that she was looking for something long-term or serious, like throughout the TV show you can kind of see that, but at the same time, when he reveals some information about himself, and in this case it's verbal, it's just very clear, it's more so information about his mindset, and I think that's what I want to emphasize here, because she said something very important there. She said, well, but I don't even have a car to live out of. And that's the irony, that like, yeah, you could look at it and say, well, but they're in the same situation, but it's not about the situation, because it's not about the money per se, it's about the mindset. And I think that's what it shows, because she was like, yeah, sure, in theory, and he's kind of idealizing that lifestyle and saying that this is okay, like I live in my car and that's what it is, and I'm not really looking to change that almost. And that's where she's like, yeah, that's not gonna work. And the way she lives, like, it was very, very quickly and very straight away. And also she extracts a lesson for herself, because in that moment she realizes something like, oh wait, am I doing the same thing? So she sees, like, it's interesting how people we attract always mirror us in some way. So she sees like, oh wait, I'm doing the same thing right now. Like, I'm kind of not taking something on because I'm kind of saying, well, no, I need to, you know, chase my dream. And in that moment she's like, no, I'm actually gonna do that musical, I'm gonna take that role, because it's actually what's important for me. So it's kind of becomes a reminder for her. She takes the lesson and she leaves. And I think this is where the danger is for many people. This idea that everyone we meet is a mirror. I think I first read it, maybe it was Osho, I don't even know, but I think it's a big idea that, you know, whether that's transference in psychoanalysis or whether it's something like more spiritual in terms of the energy we attract. And I think when some people get stuck is that when we have that realization, oh, but wait, like I should be more compassionate to this person, I should be more understanding because, hey, I'm in the same position, like I'm doing the same thing. But usually that is the lesson. That is the lesson, and they're like, they are there to show you that which you may not like in yourself and which you want to change. And the lesson there is to change it. The lesson is not to go into that understanding mode or try to create a story around it, that this is what's meant to be and they are showing me this, but really we are like a part of the bigger whole. I think the lesson is really to act on it, because if you do that, if you stay in it and focus on understanding the other person and realizing that you're in the same boat and all that stuff, more likely is what's gonna happen is that you're gonna drag each other down in a way. You're just gonna, like, it's almost like an escape of the reason to not change, because sometimes it creates that type of bonding. I don't want to say trauma bonding because it's not, but it's more like it's like a bond based on, oh, we're in the same position and we're both struggling to get out of it. And I mean, it could go the other way, of course. You can both like transform, and I believe that's also a possibility, right? Transform and be inspired to change it and actually support each other in changing it. But that takes a lot of awareness and work. I think it's hard to keep another person accountable and inspire them to change in a way if they, well, A, if they don't want to change, and B, if you're going through the same thing and you are not doing the same thing, or you're struggling to do the same thing. It's a bit of like, it could actually make it more difficult than otherwise. But coming back to the topic, and what I really want to highlight here is that like why are such different responses? I feel like between Quin and Angie, it's similar situations but very, very different responses. At first I was thinking, of course we can both, like, we can recognize ourselves in both of them, maybe in different times of our lives. I can certainly say so. Well, not maybe to that extreme in the case of Quin, and maybe not as quick. I didn't walk away as quick as Angie, but you know, like sort of towards that, those continuums. And so it is a continuum, and it is changes depending where we are at life and how we feel about ourselves ultimately, right? Because that's how we respond to the world. But I think usually there is like a bigger narrative or something, the response that we go to more often than not, and that's what I kind of wanted to highlight and explore. What is that narrative created by, and can we change it? What really helps to change that narrative? And so I think I found the answers in the same TV show, which is connected to their childhood. So the next two clips will show those stark differences between their families.
Hi, Mom.
I need you to take in this dress. 2 inches. 3 weeks on keto.
You look good.
I look outstanding. Maybe you should try keto. Busy as usual.
Actually, I am designing a wedding dress for $25,000.
I love this color. Lilac.
And she's recommending me to all of her friends.
What do you call that pink color? Mauve?
Mauve. And after getting the deposit, the store is officially in the black for the very first time.
Oh, I think you're gonna have to come in 3 inches. Oh, keto, where have you been all my life?
Mom, did you hear what I just said?
Yes, but talk to me when you can go more than 30 days without asking me and your father to keep the lights on.
Mom, all businesses operate at a deficit in the beginning.
But yours remain there. The juice bar, the spa.
Well, this is different. This is what I was supposed to be doing all along. Mom, I've been trying really hard to turn a profit. The least you could do is acknowledge that.
Acknowledged. And you should acknowledge that one wedding dress does not a successful business make. What size do you think I am now?
I don't know, 6?
I am 10 cauliflower pizzas away from a 4.
Then you'll be my size.
Interesting, considering I have had 2 children.
Yeah, so after watching that, I feel like you can see into the dynamics that Quin grew up with, and yeah, and how that makes her feel. And also I feel like that little last scene in this scene, like the few seconds in the end where she gets angry and she's like kind of suppresses that anger. She's not really expressing it, and she doesn't know what to do with it because her mom is so dismissive and critical. Kind of also reflects that, you know, either swallowing her anger when she's with other people, or like redirecting it at other things. And I think redirecting part often happens, like, you know, in a very simple example, if you go to a grocery store or somewhere and you just come across a person and it just feels like they're so angry for no reason, as they've been rude to you, and that's what usually is happening. It's just that suppressed anger or things that they're not able to either process and feel within themselves and express to another person in some way, and it just kind of gets bottled down and suppressed. yeah, which is of course very unhealthy, but it also makes it very difficult to set boundaries because it becomes internalized. And I feel like in that specific dynamic, it's very telling how there is also a lot of shame and guilt that gets created by her mom. And I imagine some people stay involved, but she supports her financially and stuff, but that seems like there is kind of resentment there. And if you know, you're going to support with that strings attached, sometimes it's better to say no on the other side too. So from the side of her mom, it seems like if you're going to attach resentment to giving something, it's better, like, you know, refuse and not to give, right? But I think it's just caught up in that dynamic of have to, and of certain roles, and maybe that's parental roles or whatever else they might be. And when I say whatever else, I mean like sometimes we just unconsciously perpetuate other roles that we play in relationships, and sometimes it's also when the parent actually takes the child role and vice versa. But that's why I'm like, don't want to simplify it too much, but also don't want to complicate it. Let's watch another clip, and this one is of the Angie, and it's a huge stark contrast to the one we just saw.
Let me look at you! I love this top. Why you didn't give me one? You think I didn't when I did?
Hey. Okay, y'all doing too much. You just saw each other last week at the drag queen brunch bingo thing.
Oh, and the week before that, and the week before that, and the week before that. Yes, we go so often that they going this next month, and don't be jealous.
There's my superstar. Come here.
Freddie, you so grumpy.
You know it gotta be me first.
Baby.
Big time.
Hi now.
Yeah, so this one is very heartwarming. Kind of just made me feel so good just watching it and feeling like, wow, imagine, well, first of all, having that, but growing up with that, having that kind of hype and support, and somebody who's just so happy to see you just by seeing you. And I mean, we can also say like, well, how realistic is that, right? Because everyone kind of have their own problems, and you know, can you just really come and see your parents no matter how happy and optimistic they might be, and that they will always react in the same way? Maybe it's not, but you see the kind of dynamics that they have, and I'll show a little bit later as well of that dynamics of support and encouragement, and kind of, yeah, like just having each other's back. That is, you know, because they could also look at her not having the things that she should be having in her age, but like she's still struggling and she's not getting anywhere with her career. And it's very easy to imagine a parent to look at her and be like, well, you know, it's not working, why don't you do something more like practical with your life? And I feel like it also becomes justified but we just care about you, we just want you to be, you know, practical and stuff. But here it's kind of, you know, there is no judgment on that part, and the person is just left to learn their own lessons, which I feel like is also important. Like whether she's gonna make it or not, it's kind of will be there supporting your dream, and then it's your lesson kind of to learn. If like it's unsaid, but that's like I'm just adding my own interpretation to it. It's like it's your lesson to learn if in case, like, you know, you don't make it and then you end up struggling and realizing that, yeah, I need to be practical. It's, you know, it's like you don't learn that through critique or unsupportive environment, you learn that from, you know, like going through that experience. I guess the critical and unsupportive environment, if anything, it makes it harder and creates that inner self-sabotage where you start doubting yourself, and where in the end of the day, if you fail and they kind of tell you, well, I told you so, it's a very difficult situation in a way that you don't know whether you actually didn't make it because you didn't have what it takes, maybe you didn't have enough talent, whatever, or is it because you just sabotaged yourself? Is it because you just didn't have that support? And I think this is where support becomes very important. And I was going to say in this video, what I want to highlight is also like how we can look at our childhood and look for those patterns and recognize those patterns in ourselves, but in the end of the day, like, what is the solution? Because we can't change our childhood, and unfortunately many of us might have an example of Quin's mother, and maybe even much more extreme in that sense, and sometimes in a role, in a way of having both caretakers that way. So imagine the impact that has, but I believe it's never late to change, and I think it's a lot about undoing those internalized voices. And in those not even voices, I would say they're internalized parent figures. It's how you parent yourself, basically. It's that what you tell yourself in those moments that will ultimately matter. I think having that, and once you have that, I think you will also attract people with the same energy who will also support you, because again, in the same TV show we see with Quin, even though her friends are amazing and supportive, but you see there are a few situations where they dismiss her and ignore her, but then they don't do it to the other members in the group. And that's where it becomes interesting, because it's not the people per se, but it's often the internal dialogue that perpetuates within us. And through that internal dialogue, we act in a certain way, we show up in a certain way in the world, and the world responds to us in a certain way as a result of that actions and behavior. And then it reconfirms our beliefs in internal dialogue, ironically, and then perpetuates it even more. It's kind of that catch-22. So the solution is really just becoming super aware of what you're saying to yourself. Who is running the show? Who is the internal parent? What is the voice there? Is it supportive? Is it critical? Are you there for yourself when you need it most? That's the ultimate question. And just to give you another quick suggestion, Chris Neff has this awesome book that I like to quote from called Self-Compassion, and really speaks about that inner critic, and also an interesting distinction between self-esteem and self-worth. So yeah, if you have a chance, definitely check that book out. It really helped me a lot. I feel like even reading it, I feel like I'm like it's just automatically kind of moving my mind towards that self-compassion side. But she also has a lot of free resources on her website, which I believe is self-compassion. It's self-compassion.org. So yeah, there are some practices and self-compassion exercises which you can access for free. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you like this video, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe. Yeah, thanks.